Many of us are envious of superheroes simply because of their powers. Not me. I'm envious because they always have the body of a Greek god. So I'm glad that CO Signature Collectibles is finally doing statues for people like me. That's right, we have another fatty at the table. I meant him, not me. Well, we have two fatties at the table. As the Extreme channel is pushing towards 50,000 subscribers, these are just a few of the statues we are giving away on the journey there. If you want to know how to win one, stay tuned for later in the video. Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. Today we are looking at Fat or Chub Chub Nom Nom Spiderman from CO Signature Collectibles. If you're new to the channel or you're unfamiliar with this line, I believe this is actually number 6 in their line. They've done a whole bunch of characters. My first one I ever got was this Wolverine piece right here. And they've been doing both Marvel and DC. However, to my knowledge, I believe these are actually technically unlicensed pieces. But maybe DC or Marvel don't care because, you know, it's a fat Spider-Man. And we all know that fat characters aren't as well received. Look at Avengers Endgame and Thor. So they've been doing this line of both DC and Marvel characters, and on this particular piece, they did some stuff that they've never done before, and we're going to talk about that. And honestly, some of it I really like, and some of it I absolutely hate. But overall, it's a pretty decent piece that we're going to do an in-depth review on today. I just realized Dumbo's ass is right at you. I also just realized there's probably 2 asses at this table. Well, 3 if you include Spider-Man. So a little bit of history on the fat line of Marvel and DC characters that they've been doing. Like I said, they came out with the Wolverine, and everybody was pretty impressed with it. I as well. It was actually the first one I bought. I bought it on the second hand, and I paid about 3 times retail. Because these are pretty cheap statues when it comes to statues. That is before the COVID shipping game got out of control. And we'll talk about that in value. But after Wolverine, I believe they released Deadpool was the next one. They also have a Superman and a Batman and an Aquaman. You can check out those reviews on the channel of each one because I own the entire collection. And I'm really torn on this guy. Am I going to display him with all of those? Or do I display him with the 10 different Spider-Man pieces I have at my office? If you want to see what I decide, go ahead and check out the Extreme channel Instagram, Facebook page, and TikTok. Now, CO Signature Collectibles, like I said, I don't believe they're licensed. I could be wrong on that. But they started out doing these characters, then they did some characters I'm not familiar with, almost like a Funko Pop genre. And now they're kind of dabbling their hands in everything. They're doing Marvel busts, they're doing Marvel diorama statues, 1/4 scale. Scale on this guy, I'm not sure what it is, but I have to guess it's about 1/6, maybe somewhere between 1/5 and 1/7, which is actually a design flaw we're going to talk about. But before we talk about the design, because that's where a lot of the issues are, let's kick it off with the concept. Now, what they've done with most of these characters is they make sure to do kind of a unique story or base, and there's always food involved on top of the fat character. And the fat character also has some exaggerated appendages. So let's check this out. Here is obviously a circus or a big top. Now, as a spoiler, you can choose a different base. But you see that on the bottom. On top of that, you have a ball. And then there's an animal on top of the ball. It looks like Dumbo. It's not Dumbo, I'm sure, for copyright purposes. Even though if they're unlicensed, I guess it wouldn't matter. But it is a circus elephant, a young circus elephant, balancing on that. He's garbed up in circus gear, very cute little fella. He is holding a hot dog with his trunk or his nose. And Fat Spider-Man is on top of him, coming from behind in almost a creepy way, stealing that hot dog with his webs, which is pretty cool. And this body style is very reminiscent of the first one, the Wolverine. Huge belly, some muscles, very tiny feet. I absolutely love it. It looks comical, it looks hilarious. And one thing with the concept of these pieces, people either love it or hate it. I think it's incredibly unique. But one thing I'm not digging about this statue is, why the hell a circus? Why? Aquaman was on the sea riding a shark, makes sense. Superman was flying over pancakes. Batman had the bat signal and some other minions around. So I don't get the ties of Spider-Man to the circus, so I actually think that's a negative. Also with the concept here, this is almost a design thing, but the elephant is bigger than Spider-Man, and the elephant has nothing to do with Spider-Man. When it comes to concept, a lot of people knock the base if it's much bigger than the character. Now, I can forgive that when it ties to the story of the character, but I don't think a circus or an elephant does to Spider-Man, so I think that's a negative. Now, while I really like this, I think from a conceptual standpoint, it's only a 3 out of 5 on the extreme scale. Now design, they did some really interesting stuff. And we'll kick it off with the assembly. So here is the box that it came in. Much bigger than most pieces, probably due to the size. Funny, chubby is the new sexy on the art box. Standard custom black foam, tape, no straps. And here are all the pieces once I uncovered them. There are no actual switch outs of Spider-Man or the elephant, so from the elephant's feet up, you have to display it like this. However, here's a screenshot of this and the alternate display base. Now, I like that they added this. It doesn't take up as much room because this is a very tall piece. Now, personally, I will never use it because if we're going to go goofy, let's go as goofy as possible. And I don't mean this goofy, but let's measure them while we're talking about it. So the highest point is about 18 inches or so. The widest point of the base is about 9 inches. And then his ears, Dumbo's ears, are about 15 inches. You're going to lose approximately 4.5 inches on the height. And then how wide it is only 7 inches on this base. Now, I said they did something they've never done before with this piece. There was another base piece that came with it. And actually, I had to look it up what it was for because nothing would key into it. One of their previous characters actually keys into it. It's another circus base and their Deadpool piece, which if you recall, he was actually in some water. Here's a picture of him again. So they can make a companion piece. Again, I'm kind of mystified at this. I don't get that direction. Why do I want to put Deadpool with Spider-Man, other than the fact they're both Marvel? How come there's not a companion base for Wolverine as well? Are they going to be doing this with the future pieces? Just seems like a weird waste of money, in my opinion. I'm going to keep Deadpool on his old base because I actually quite like it. However, some people may love this, so it might have been a good strategy, but for me, not so much. I do appreciate the physics of this up here with the Spider-Man's web. The hot dog was actually like a magnet that went right in, and everything flows really well, so I do have to give him props for that. So I give him a 4 out of 5 on design, despite the fact I'm really confused on some of their choices. I mean, come on, essentially you gave us 3 different bases for one statue, and none of them make sense. So now we're going to look at the paint and sculpt of this piece, and they do a pretty good job with this. I'm impressed with this guy as well. Now, I haven't ordered anything else from this company, any like their 1/4 scale pieces, but I definitely would be willing to based on how they do on this. Check it out. Starting with the secondary base that I'll probably never use, it's done well. I mean, I know it's supposed to be the sand gravel effect with a museum base below. It looks nice. I like the paint, I like the sculpt, I like the texture of it. It's just a shame it really won't be used. Now on this piece right here, I'm a fan of the base as well. I like the faded colors here. Reminds me of an old circus or Big Top. They have some black and yellow marked in with those white and red triangles. Kind of basic here. Now, the wood plank on top looks a little bit cartoony, which flows with the statue well, I think. It doesn't look like real wood that I've seen painted and sculpted before, but I'm okay with that. Kind of an interesting black mark around the sides. I don't know if that is a QC issue or intentional. I would almost say that it has to be intentional, but I don't understand the concept behind it. It was packed pretty well, as you saw, so I don't think it came from that. The pink ball, I like how it's compressed at the top where his feet are going in. I think that's a clever move. It almost looks like it's inflatable when in fact it's hard. The elephant, while it's cute, I'm not a huge fan of the sculpt on it. It's way too cartoony where there's a decent amount of realism other than the body proportions on Spider-Man. So looking at the skin, not really my cup of tea for an elephant. The anatomy is done well, and one thing here, they have, I didn't really talk about this during the concept, but they have the spider symbol on the back, almost like a venom symbol. To me, almost more of a venom symbol. It's indented in, and then it's got these darker highlights around the sides of it. I think, again, that's just weird to me. It looks okay, it is just weird. Same thing, not a lot of detail on the tail and the hairs. So a little bit of miss. His eyes also look very toyish, very plasticky. They're very bright. I think these are decals. I'm fairly certain. But yeah, I'm just not digging the elephant. I like the colors on him. It just looks strange on the entire piece. It looks like a toy. I think it's just too toyish. Now the hot dog kind of looks neat. Now I would prefer ketchup on there because mustard on a hot dog. I know some people are going to hate that. Now Spider-Man's web is really dirty and I don't like that. You always picture Spider-Man's web as kind of fresh. You know, he doesn't reuse them. So I think that's a big miss. Kind of see that color on there. Almost like a faded color. Spider-Man himself, I think, looks great. I like the sculpt on him, the tiny texture on the red part of the suit. The musculature, like I said, he's a fat, muscular guy. See, we exist. We can do both. A lot of smoothness on the blue part of it where his spider logo is protruding. Now, there's a lot of shading on here, and they do that with a lot of their characters. Typically, as I said, you don't see statues that are this fat that have this many body folds. So that's not really normal. Little QC issue on the back here as well. Regarding the portrait, you can't even see his mouth, which is typical. I love the tiny nose. I love the eyes. I like the sculpt on Spider-Man a lot better than the elephant. So overall, some really good stuff when you're looking at it with micro detail. But if you're really just trying to enjoy this piece for what it is, like, hey, that's hilarious and that's funny, especially if you put them with the rest of the line, I think it's a good piece to add to the collection. All right, so paint, incredibly clean like we talked about. I like the art direction. I like what they chose. I give the paint a 4 out of 5. It's actually really impressive. I like the colors. I like how it pops. Sculpt. I think Spidey is phenomenal. I really like what they did. Like I said, they followed a lot of the same stuff with Deadpool and Wolverine. The elephant, not as much. It's not bad. I think I'm giving him a 3 out of 5 on the sculpt simply for the fact that Spider-Man is better, but he's such a smaller piece of it. And remember on this channel, 3 is not a bad score. Now for $330, this is kind of what we expected because that was the retail price. Unfortunately, as I said, during COVID shipping times, it was $200 to ship this piece, especially considering the fact it was via sea. So you're over $500 all in. The other problem I have with this, I don't know how many they made of this. There's not an edition size on the bottom or on the box. I looked up on their Facebook page and they didn't give any information on that. It may be somewhere, so if you know what it is, go ahead and comment below and I'll pin it at the top so everybody knows. So it's hard for me to judge a value on this. Now their Wolverine, the value on that is through the roof. I believe the Superman goes for a decent amount, a little bit above retail, but the rest of them really kind of hang around retail or lower. So I think the value is hard to judge on this, but I'm guessing it's going to be about a 3 out of 5 because it's so weird. So does this have the X factor? Is this a 5 out of 5 statue? It's not, but I do really like it. It's going to pair either well with my Spider-Man collection or with the rest of them. So I'll have to figure that out, but either way, I give this statue a solid 3 out of 5. I'm happy for what I paid for it. I'm glad it's in the collection. It's a very good statue. We will be giving all of these statues away, plus additional ones at every 5,000 subscriber milestone. To win one of these statues, all you have to do is make sure you've liked this video, you've subscribed to the channel, you've hit that bell notification, and then just drop a comment below. Every 5,000 subscriber milestone, we are going to do a random drawing and pick a random comment and give one of these statues away, plus some additional ones I'm not showing right now. The more videos you comment on, the higher your chances are to win. Let me know your thoughts on this particular piece. Where does it rank in the chubby line? Throw that in the comments below. That'll enter you into the contest. Also, make sure to hit my face if you haven't yet so you can subscribe to the channel. I'm just talking about metaphorically down below. And hit a like button on the way out. I really appreciate it. Talk to you guys soon. Take care.